y'all. Welcome to Let's Get Deep Bible Study. We are going to pick up where we left off last week in Genesis chapter 44. Last week a lot happened. So now we were talking about the testing that was going on and Joseph weeping the importance of not trying to rush over our grief. And so in chapter 44, there's still some testing and some trying going on. So starting at verse 1. Now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the men's sack with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. As morning dawned, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after the men at once, and when you catch up with them, say, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup of my master's drink from that my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done.' When he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them. But they said to him, 'Why does my Lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mouth of our sack. So why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my Lord's slaves.'" And so I want to pause there. Are there any scriptures that you guys wanted to insights that y'all saw when reading through verses 1 through, was that 9? No. Well, I guess for me, one thing that kind of stuck out was the thing about the divination. And so I was like, okay, Joseph, was the reason that you said that was because the perception, that he's displaying is that he's staying really into like this Egyptian, um, what was it? This Egyptian persona. And I don't know if it was a way to kind of just put more, I don't know, like fear or anxiety in them. I'm not sure, but I always like reading this even a couple years ago. I was like, I wonder why, like, um, he made a point to like use the word divination, because we know that Joseph doesn't use divination because he literally told Pharaoh, like, it's not me that interprets them; it's literally Yah that does this. And so that was just something that always kind of gave me like a pause to think.
Yeah,
Um,
that stood out to me as well. I thought it was kind of like maybe he was like trying to throw them off track, keep them off track from thinking he was who he really was or whatever. Because as a Hebrew, he wouldn't be doing all that kind of stuff or whatever. He wouldn't have anything to do with that. And then, as you mentioned earlier, I had kind of put it in my notes that Joseph was still testing the heart posture of his brothers by putting the money and the silver in their bag. He was still, trying to see, okay, has there actually been a change? Kind of like what you guys talked about a little bit last week. I know it wasn't on the call, but I did go back and listen, and it was awesome, y'all. Ooh, that thing was good. And then the last thing I had put was in reference to, it says, "Why have you repaid evil for good?" I said this is further testing. This is similar to what they did to him. Like he was. I felt like maybe he was, trying to bring back to their remembrance. Hey, you had this brother that you did evil to. He didn't do anything to you, and so I just thought those things were significant for like just to remind the brothers of their sin, of the thing that they had done. You're muted.
okay, I was like, anybody else before we keep reading? Okay. Um, okay, verse 10. "Very well, then," he said, "let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave, and the rest of you will be free from blame." Each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. At this, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers came in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to him, "What is it? What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination?" There we go again. Okay, Joseph, what's going on here? um, what can we say to my lord? Judah replied. What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? Elohim has uncovered your servant's guilt. And now we are my Lord's slaves, we ourselves, and the one who was found to have the cup. But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found with the cup will become my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace." And so I want to pause here, because in the notes, this is where I started my notes, was verse 16, where Judah's saying, "How can we justify ourselves? Elohim has exposed your servant's iniquity." Or in this, version, it says guilt. And the first thing that came to my mind was Psalms 26:2, where it says, "Examine me, O Yahuwah, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart." So I broke down the word reins, and it's Bet, Lamet, Yod, Hey, which, Bet is the house, the body, the tabernacle. Lamed is like the authority, the teacher, the shepherd. Yod is like the work of the hands, your deeds. And Hey is like the revelation, what's seen. And so pulling all that together, it's really like the temple's teaching authority, or the body's teaching authority actively at work, is what's revealed and seen. And so understanding that definition of whatever your authority is, whatever actually holds like your reins, whatever actually has the reins of your heart, is going to be seen in what you do. It's going to be seen in how you act and how you treat people and how you have and how you handle confrontation. All of those things are going to be revealed. The teacher inside of you, if it's Yah, then your actions, what you see, will reflect Yah. If it's something else, if it's bitterness, if it's anger, if it's hatred, if it's resentment, if it's low self-esteem that has the reins of your heart and in your mind, it's going to be seen in how you operate. And so we kind of hinted on this a little bit last week about, we did the analogy about the butterflies for us in the Bible study. What you consume, what you fill up on, at the end of the day, is going to be revealed in your transformation. It's going to be revealed in your actions. And so if we're saying, Yah, prove me, try the reins of my heart, we're asking the Father to refine us so that when we operate, it is He that people see, which is why Yahushua could say, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." Because the authority of his heavenly Father was at the reins of his heart and his mind. So when you saw him, he was only revealing what was in him, which was the word, which was his Father's spirit. And so our reins have to be tried so that when we operate, when we see it, because like reflecting is, if you can see yourself operating, that's not what Yah looks like. Okay, there's something else that has reign in my heart. There's something else that's holding the authority in how I act. Something else is teaching me how to respond that way, because that's not Yah's authority. Because his authority, his spirit says I should be reacting like this. But when something happens, I react like this. So there's two teachers at play. And so when he proves us, when he's testing our reins, is to burn out, to work out this false, defiled, or dysfunctional authority that he is purging out of us. So he is the only reigning authority in our hearts, in our temple, in our body. He can, this body, this temple can only have one seat of authority. It's only him. And so if we are using our hands and our deeds and something else is being revealed and it's not him, we got some more Yah, examine me, prove me to do. Go ahead, sis T.
That's so good. A couple of, I think when we first started the Bible study, we talked about that word reign, and that was like such a good breakdown, because the reins is your kidneys. Like the reins is also your kidneys. And if you know what the kidneys function is, like that ties right into like, Yah. It's like the filter, pretty much, like the filter to take in, it takes in, waste, it takes in, all the toxic things, and it filters, the blood. right? It filters and cleans the blood. And it regulates also like your blood pressure and like all that stuff, that the kidneys does. So it's so intentional, like of Yah, like, to how he created us, like even like to down to like our organs and everything and how our body works, like it's literally him in there because our just like the kidneys do the filtering. If Yah has rain, in our body, or in our temple, then like what's going to happen is what goes in, because you might take in something, what comes in, it won't stay there, but instead, it'll be filtered out, and you'll be cleansed by Yah's spirit. So I just wanted to add that in, like, how that was so good, because literally down to every little detail, Yah is just so good.
He really is. And when I was doing that word breakdown, I thought about you because you had broken down so many chapters ago. I can't even remember what chapter. We were in Genesis because like we've only been in Genesis since we've started this Bible study back in was it June? Yeah. And so when I was writing the notes for Rainy, I literally just thought about what T has said, and I was like, well, let me go over it again since I understand. I'm learning, the Paleo Hebrew and breaking it down and using it in my study more often. Um, and so it says like, the kidneys, the mind, and it literally says the interior self, your seat of emotions, And so it's like when we allow Yah to sit at the center of our seat of emotions, that when Yah's in the inner chambers of our hearts, right? First, you have to let him come into the inner chambers so he can do the filtering process. So, we've been talking about submission this whole time. We're talking about surrender this whole time. If you don't let him in, then you're not allowing the one who can filter and prove you to get the bad stuff out. And so, even when we think about like, okay, so something happened last Sunday where I was in the midst of a very emotional, prophetic call to repentance, and in the midst of like my crying out and letting Yah's spirit like lead the conversation, I literally felt a pain in my kidney from the sorrow that I felt, because this person like refused to like pray, and I was just like, yeah, what is going on? So when I started doing the notes, it came to Reigns, I talked about kidneys. When I looked up kidneys online, I was like, can deep emotional grief like cause your kidneys to hurt? And like, Google was just like, yeah, because high emotions and your blood pressure raises and all these other things. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, y'all really like, Yah is so
Intentional.
yes, intentional, because what? I'm not a doctor, but I knew it was like, oh, something. It's like as I was literally mourning and crying, I could feel like I felt like it was like a rushing of blood going through my kidneys. But like, in my flesh, I probably should have been like angry or upset, but like all I could feel was sorrow. And it was like the city of emotions is directly connected to your kidneys, is directly connected to how you act. If we have a lack of self-control, then that means we don't like Yah doesn't have he doesn't have the reins of our hearts and our minds, because when we do have self-control, we allow those emotions to go in through the filter, allow Yah to allow Yah to like filter it out and say, okay, you felt all these emotions, but now you act like this. So now like the revealing of your hands and the deeds that you do in the midst of your anger or your sadness, that's not what moves you. You feel it still, but you don't act on. It says like be angry and sin not. So like he's not saying walk around like a robot and don't have emotions. He's saying, yeah, feel your emotions, but don't allow your emotions to be your authority. And so that's the difference. I'm not saying we're without feelings, because I got a lot of emotions, but not allowing our emotions to become our God, not allowing our emotions to become our master. So T just shared something in it says blood pressures have been elevated for the lack of self-control. That speaks to a number of things. Right now we get into like medical things like not being able to regulate or have self-control when it comes to what you're drinking, what you're eating, and now like your reins or your kidneys are not functioning, are going to have to function in overtime because we could not control, we didn't have self-control over this vessel, this body, to say, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that because, I don't want to put so much pressure on my filtering system. Anyways, long story short, yeah, the reins, the kidneys, like what y'all's revealing in this whole thing, it was just really, for me, I was just like, wow. And obviously we keep going, Jeremiah 17:10, Yahuwah searched the heart, try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruits of his doing. So again, reins directly connected to the active working of your hand and what's revealed. So y'all's even saying like, I'm trying your reins because I'm going to reward you based off what you do, based off the activity of your deeds, your thoughts, your actions. Because if I'm at the seat of your reins, the only thing you can produce with your hands are my fruits. And so that's why in Jeremiah, according to the fruit of his doings, you either got good fruit or you can have dysfunctional bad fruit. But either way, allowing y'all to try your reins so it can be cleansed, so it can be purged, and so that your doings and your fruit are according to his standard.
Sis, this is so powerful right now. I don't know if you guys hear me. I have my headphones in because I got the kids running rampant right this second. But in regards to our health, right? I just saw it was a documentary, right? And they were speaking about people who live long lives. But there was somebody that had spoken and said that they ate healthy, they did everything right, they exercised, they had this, they had that. And when they did the autopsy on them, like they were saying they died from kidney failure, right? And they were like, but I didn't drink soda, I didn't drink, so they were leading it all back to the physical food, not realizing this is spiritual. Like this has nothing. Yes, we're supposed to take care of our body as a, in regards to the food that we eat, right? But this is next level. So that bad fruit, good fruit, that is what comes in and determines how our organs are functioning. And I've literally seen this, and it's definitely, I think there's a scripture, I'm gonna have to look it up and I'll when I find it, but it speaks of how our body gets affected by, the disobedience and the wickedness, that we partake in or we do. But I'll find it and bring it forth to us. But I just wanted to drop that there, that this is definitely spiritual.
I say all the time, like the physical and the spiritual are literally like here. Okay, it's gonna manifest. It's gonna manifest some kind of way. So maybe you live a clean, healthy life in the physical, in the fleshly sense, but spiritually, you got all kinds of things that's wrong. You don't know how to, maybe you're mean, hateful, and vindictive. If Aisha was here, she would probably tell y'all the story about how I forgot something, she had to go to the hospital for something, but they end up like cutting something out of her. And she said when she saw it, it looked like two angry men. And she showed me the picture. She was like the bitterness or whatever she was harboring ended up manifesting in her body. And so when she finally like released it and cried out to Yah, is the same time that she had to go to the hospital because something had ruptured. And I might be telling the story a little wonky, but it's very like, whenever she was telling me the story, she was telling me like the literal spiritual revelation that Yah gave her concerning this thing. But so that was just, a tangent, Yah willing, when Aisha, gets back on, I'll have her, tell you guys, the full story in its proper context. But yeah.
Yeah, they look like two little angry faces.
Yeah, they did. So I got to witness Latanya because she showed Latanya too.
Yeah.
To Shuvia. So what scriptures are these? Are these the scriptures that Dominique was referring to?
Yeah, there are a few that I'm aware of that can relate to diseases and affliction, our wickedness giving us afflictions and diseases.
Okay.
That's it right there. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, sis.
Okay. If someone can, y'all can add those 2 scriptures in the notes. So when I update the notes, I'll put those scriptures in there to kind of like so when people watch the replay, they know exactly what scriptures we're talking about paired with the notes. Okay, anybody else before we pick back up? All right, where did we stop? 17. Okay. Is my mic on? Okay. But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who has found with the cup will be my slave. The rest of you will go back to your father in peace." Then Judah went up to him and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself." My lord asked his servant, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we answered, "We have an aged father and a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him." Then you said to your servants, "Bring him down so I can see him for myself." And he said to my lord, "The boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves his father, the father will die." But you told your servants, "Unless the youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face again." And so this part, this is all, the re-encounting of everything that just happened. Judah's like, "Let me give you a rundown of how we even got to this situation. I'm trying to understand," because Judah's in a space where he's just like, what is this cannot be our luck, right? Not knowing this is part of the proving. So I'm going to jump down to 29. So if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring this is, he's talking about what Israel said, "Bring down gray hairs into the grave of misery. So now if the boy is not with us, when I go back to your servant, my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, see that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servant will bring the gray hair of our father down to the grave in sorrow." Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now, please let your servant remain here as my Lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that will come on my father. And so, that was a lot. But what I didn't put in the notes on this part, I talked about Judah being accountable, but I didn't mention this last part. I just want to talk about it. I didn't make notes, but when Judah's saying like my father's life is closely bound up with the boy's life. I don't know if you guys have another translation, Mom. What does your translation say?
Bound up.
Bound up in yours too?
Yeah, it's like a deep connection.
Yeah, so like he's saying that their lives are literally intertwined. And we talked about a little bit last week about how in Israel having to move in a space of trust, of saying like, okay, I don't want to give up this thing that's so close to me, but if I want to live, if I want to survive, if I want to continue on, I'm going to have to relinquish this what's the word I'm looking for? Relinquish this deep thing, this thing that I love. So, obviously in this situation, it's his son, but, for practicality reasons, in our own lives, there's things that Yah is asking us to relinquish. And so we relinquish them. We can say we relinquish them, but sometimes we say we're relinquishing a thing to Yah, but our soul is still like intertwined with the thing, even though we're saying, okay, Yah, I give it to you. But if something happens to this thing, if Yah's saying that thing has to die, that thing has to be separated from you from eternity, like you can never have it back anymore. Will you die if the thing that he told you to give up dies? If the thing that he tells you to separate from is completely destroyed, is your life bound up in the thing that Yah is asking you to release, to get rid of, right? We know that's not the full situation for Israel, because we know Israel is going to get Joseph back and Benjamin back. But as we're talking about our healing and our restoration and the things that Yah is trying to purge out of us and try the reins of our hearts, if he's saying, I'm removing this thing from your reins, but you really are still connected to it, your life can be bound up in a thing. we are each responsible for our own salvation, in the sense of your righteousness is not going to save your spouse. Your righteousness is not going to save, your mother or your father. All you can do is plant seeds, but to not have our lives bound up in a sense to where if Yah says, okay, I got to blow out their candle right now, are you going to perish because their candle got blown out, but you're still here? And the only example I can think of is just like the whole Lot's wife situation. We talked about this back then. Like her life, her heart was so bound up in whatever was in that city that it caused her to literally lose her life because she could not actually separate the binding that was in her heart from whatever caused her to want to look back. And so that's just one facet of why I want to talk about, the binding up part. Thoughts, commentary, insights. Okay, so go ahead, sis.
I was just gonna say that, I think that that's why it's important I think Miss Rachel touched on this last week about like things being routine, or like just kind of like doing like the works of things. And like I know we talked about it after the call, me, you, and Teshuvia, about like the actual work that you have to put in to build the relationship with Yah, for yourself, so that you can know him for yourself, and it's really a heart check. Like he can really do that heart surgery within you, because if not, and if you're just going through routine, or you're like, I guess kind of like like you're bound up in someone else, like someone else's fire, or someone else's praying, or like whatever it is, like that. If that gets you caught up, if that's what has you bound, then if you're bound up in their relationship, ain't no 3-way relationships with Yah. It's only 2-way relationships. He don't do the whole polygamy thing. So, he kind of do, but kind of, nah, I ain't gonna say he kind of do, but I'm saying like in the sense of he love everybody. He's married to all of us, but it still ain't no 2-way, no 3-way, relationships with Yah. I hope y'all get what I'm saying. I'm definitely not.
You're saying that like, okay, so obviously we're all together, right? Israel is one bride, or one body, but the relationship that we foster to be a Akkad, or like that one, that he's one spirit, to be one with him, is something that we have to do individually. The work that I do is not transferable to be like, okay, I've done all this work, I desire Yah, I seek him, I just want to be obedient to him. I can't be like, okay, now I bestow all of whatever Yah has for me onto all of you guys. So now you don't have to, actually have your own desire to seek Yah. You don't have to have your own prayer life with Yah. You don't have to have your own study time. Like I know that's exactly what you're saying. So like we have to have it individualized. Yeah, I get what you're saying, sis.
I was thinking about, and there went my Bible. Let's go get it. All right. I was thinking about in this last, as we were reading these last verses, right, that we place a lot of attention on Joseph, because he's main character in this, and main person in this particular passages that we've been reading. But I am also very cognizant of like the brothers, right? I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm thinking about how these last verses with Judah talking, that when we talked a little bit about how Joseph becomes like a picture of Messiah, or a glimpse of Messiah, and how Messiah's character and how he shows up, right? I'm thinking about how the Most High does not, is always trying to bring us back to ourselves. Like he's always trying to bring us back to ourselves, because like he knows it all. He knows it all. He's aware of it all. He's accepted us in our totality. Like we don't see the full arc of our life. We don't see the full arc of our redemption. But he has. Like he literally has seen the whole thing and been like, you, I want you type of a thing. And I was thinking about how when even when that like in this passage with Judah, I'm reading him saying, I can't do this. Like you can't like keep him because it's gonna cause my father to die. And it's almost like he's putting together the pieces of he's putting together all of the pieces of this is what the repercussions, big $10 word, can't say it, repercussions are. This is me tying it to no, it's not just um that if I don't bring him back, I'm not keeping his word, but this is the impact that it's having. And it makes me think about how when I truly when I truly confront my stuff, that it's not just that it's the stuff, it's the fact that I can see the bigger picture of how it impacts other people. I can see the impact of how it is impacting other areas of my life. I can see how it is impacting even the heart of the Most High when I am not in alignment and in step with him, and I'm not connected to him, and I'm not reconciled, or I've got some kind of barrier that is between me and him. He's always making those things known to us, not so that he can condemn us, but so that he can say, this is what's between us. What are you going to do about that? Here's what has happened. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say like that this would break my heart? And that's what I'm seeing in this particular passage, that we just this particular verses that we just read. It's almost like Judah has this 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 grave knowing of, wait, if this thing happens, this is what's going to happen. And then at the end when he says no, instead of him taking him as a slave, take me instead. And I think that that is a kind of an alluding a picture of when we really really like tell the truth about our stuff, right? When we do get to that point where we're like, you know what, Most High, like whatever it's going to take for this thing not to be, for this ill repair of our relationship not to exist, whatever it's going to take for me to be closer to you, whatever it's going to take for me to be able to experience life in the way that you would have me to experience, then I'm going to do that. And so it's at that point of that almost that point of sacrifice that Judah is talking about, makes me think about us, and makes me think about how, they had been known for years that what they had done to Joseph. Like they had known for years, they had been living with it for years. And yet now in this place, at this space, it's like even when he was recounting we skipped over those verses, but even when he recounted the story, it's like I could hear him like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and bringing himself to this realization of, this is how we're here, this is how we got here, but whatever it takes for me to get out of this space to stop this thing that's going to happen, like it's important. I hope that made sense. But I'm just thinking about how the Most High never pushes us in places of showing us ourselves to be able to further isolate ourselves, to run from him, but so that we get the full brevity, another $10 word, I'm gonna look that one up, to be able to understand what is it that we're really saying here. It's never, like I said, it's never, well, I believe rather, I gotta say it, but I believe it's never about this thing. It's never about the sin. Like, it's not really about that. It's about what is this thing what is this thing doing in your life? And as you all were talking about the fruit, and that you're known by your fruit, and what kind of fruit are you going to produce? Having fruit is not the end all be all. Because what's the purpose of fruit? The purpose of fruit is actually so you can eat and live. The purpose of fruit is so that you can have nourishment. The Most High is not saying, oh, I want y'all to go out here and produce a bunch of fruit, and then we got a bunch of fruit and it's just sitting on the tree, and then it fall to the ground, and then it just died. Like, the fruit has a purpose. And that knowing that when we come to ourselves, when he gets us to a space where we can recognize, oh, Most High, this is what this really means. Oh, Most High, it's not just the surface something I'm looking at. This is the deeper impact of what's going on that's affecting me, my children, my family, people who know me. Like this, oh, this is how this is affecting literally the world because of how I am wrestling, or how I have this thing. I need to get into the place where I can now move into the purpose, because the fruit has a purpose. It's not just fruit to be fruit.
Or the fruit is not even for you, it's for other people. And so in that same vein of Sister Rachel being like, okay, you got all this fruit, but if I am taking from your fruit and it's bitterness, it's anger, and it affects the person that ate the fruit to now they're having a stomach ache, they throwing up, in the sense of like what Miss Rachel was saying, just like, how has my fruit affected those around me? Because clearly when we produce the fruits that Yah has called us to produce, it's not going to make other people sick. It's not going to be like an effect to where now there's like a virus spreading, or all these other things are being multiplied and spread out amongst the community, which is why him trying our reins is so important. And for like that in verse 32, for me, I was just saying, like, I'm seeing Judah become accountable. Even as he's like retelling the story, you can hear like, okay, he sees now that like Judah becomes accountable to his, like, as he's telling this story. And he's like saying, I'll stay here and be a slave instead of the boy. Because the way it happened was they had no concern. They were not their brother's keeper. And in this sense, Joseph seeing, wow, you're now saying that you're gonna be your brother's keeper? You're not going to let your youngest brother become a slave? You're not going to let your younger brother rot in a ditch somewhere? You're not going to let your father think that this boy died? You're not going to, like, oh, you understand now. Obviously, that he doesn't know he's talking to Joseph, but Joseph knows, like, oh, Judah has some accountability now. Even the way that he's saying that, like, if I don't return my brother to my father, it's going to grieve my dad. I'll be the sacrifice. I'll stay on account of what you think he stole, because I have a responsibility as a brother. As we know, Judah is head of, he's the next one in line. He's the one where the kingship falls to, right? It doesn't go to Reuben, it doesn't go to Simeon, it doesn't go to Levi, because Levi is the priesthood. It goes to Judah. And so knowing that Judah was the one who concocted the whole plan to be like, hey, let's not kill him, let's sell him. You know, like, put him in the ditch and we'll do all these things. So he had to be the one to take the accountability on behalf of everything that was going on. And under that accountability, I just saw other scriptures where this is the heart posture Yah has called us to walk in. And also the whole Daniel chapter 9 is a prayer, where we know that Daniel, you know the story of Daniel, he's this righteous man in the midst of Persia and all these things. They're trying to plot against him. They threw him in a lion's den. But he's praying this prayer saying, Adonai, righteousness belongs to you, but this day public shame belongs to us. And it continues as he prays about, we have done this against you. We have sinned, but I'm praying. Being accountable and laying your life down for your brethren is also perfectly in line with intercessory. You, like, Judah is now putting on his kingship hat by saying, I'm gonna literally, okay, so Judah, line of the tribe of Judah, Yahusha, Judah's taking accountability on behalf of his brothers, right? We know Benjamin is innocent, right? But like, we not innocent. But the lion of the tribe of Judah is innocent. He's saying, I'm going to intercede for the rest of my brethren, and I will take the blame. Instead of them, it will be me. Like, the prophetic picture of all of this is beautiful, right? But Judah, not Lion of the tribe of Judah, patriarch Judah had to have this happen to understand the mantle that is required as king of Israel, or of the heads of his brothers. Even in 1 John chapter 3:16, it says, hereby perceive we the love of Elohim, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Go ahead, Tashuvia.
Okay, so I think you covered pretty much what I was going to say. First, I was trying to see what verse you were at because my Bible is reading different when you were speaking about binding up, right? So what verse were you at? Because I'm assuming it was 29.
30. Mine was 30. So now the boy is not with us when he go back. My father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life.
Okay, I see it now. All right, cool. So, but I wanted to back up really quick on 16. When we were looking at 16, and it says, and Judah said, what shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out iniquity. He literally is sitting here feeling like, okay, what we did when we sold out our brother is catching up to us. Now, y'all may have covered that because I was trying to hold on to my thoughts. I was like, I don't know if they seen the two because they didn't steal anything right in this moment. They knew they did nothing wrong. But at this moment, he's like, bro, the Father has seen and has caught up with us. And so I had just wanted to throw that back out there if y'all didn't. And I was looking into the Hebrew of bound, but I think I looked up bind instead of bound. And I thought it was interesting because y'all were having a conversation about who we bind ourselves to. In a negative sense, though I see it in scripture mainly in a positive sense, but I do understand in a negative sense, right? Which is why we should be discerning in all our relationships, because bind is really covenant. Because it, in the Hebrew is more than one term. So I got like 4. I'm not going to go through them. I guess I'll cut and paste them into the notes for you. But I was sitting with that because it just made me think. Let me go back to that one. When we was talking about friends, so the only negative one I seen is when Proverbs 22, 24, 25, do not make friends with a hot-tempered person, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. I think unknowingly we have watered down the standard that the Father has for us because we don't take heed to how important the law is, and we make excuses, whether it's family, friends, or jobs, and we don't realize, then we bind ourselves to that thing. And that was the only thing I wanted to add to that without going too far off.
No, that was good. I thought we maybe did, or maybe we didn't, because that was definitely part of like the notes about like it's gonna get found out. Like either y'all's gonna put you in a situation to remind you of something that had happened so that you can repent, renounce, denounce, sever those ties for correction. But it's gonna get exposed. The beautiful thing is when you are walking with Yah, it is his grace that he exposes them to you so that the proving, the trying of the reins can happen. And so I say this often, but like Yah does not reveal the things you did in your past to condemn you. He reveals them to you so that you can course correct, because maybe there was some covenants, there was some binding of some things that you said yes to, that you agreed to, that he's like, I'm reminding you of the thing that you said, that you did, that you participated in, that I need you to now go in with the authority that I have given you to renounce, to cancel covenants, so that those doors can be permanently closed. And so like once we change our perception of when Yah may bring back a memory from 10 years ago that it was locked away in your memory, he's like, I'm unlocking it now, because you're now you're spiritually sound enough and you're spiritually mature enough, or you're in a space with sisterhood or brotherhood who, when that revelation or that memory comes back, they can give you wise counsel according to my word on how to handle the thing that I've now brought back to your remembrance.
I put in the comments the conviction. He convicts us, and that way we can come to him and we can repent for whatever it is. All these things that you're saying, when that conviction of the word gets in our ruach, it's like, oh my goodness, Abba, oh my goodness. And so, you really, you want to come to him, and you can pour yourself out, and you can turn, and you know that he's going to cast that thing in the sea of forgetfulness, never to remember it again. So, it's that conviction. It's like we're seeing in Judah. He's like, wow, what we did in the past, what I did, what I started, you know what I'm saying? No, I'll take it. And that's an example of like what you were talking about before, like with Yahusha, and he's the tribe of Judah, and it's like he's taken, like you said, that accountability of what he did because of that conviction.
That's good, sis. I want to give a shout out to Brother Antoine. Last Shabbat, they were speaking something very similar, and he pulled out the scripture in Romans where, I don't know if it was Romans, I might be quoting wrong, but it was definitely Paul. It was on Paul's letter, and Paul was like, I wish I could become accursed from my brethren. And basically saying, like, if I could receive, if I could receive the recompense for my brother's sins so they could be saved, I would do that, just as Hamashiach did, right? And that heart posture of the I will do what Yah tells me to do, even if it means I lose my life, in the pursuit of planting seeds, in the pursuit of crying out and saying, Yah loves you, come back to him, in the pursuit of this is the pure word of Yah, and he has nothing but life and restoration. There's nothing that you've done that he can't wash off of you and bring you back into his course. Like, I will lay my life down on account of my brethren. It's that type of ahava that, maybe he may not be, may not all be at that point yet, but it's saying that, like, yeah, I have a desire to love your children, myself, and my brothers and sisters the way that you called us to love. And if that means that saying I'm going to go knowing I'm going to a place where they may put hands on me, they may smite me, they may even attempt to kill me, they may kill me. But if you're saying go over here to give this word or to show love, like Paul saying, like, I'm gonna do it, or like in John saying, like, on account of the brethren, like, I'm gonna go. And it's just like, whew, that's a lot of love. Some days I may have it like that, and some days I don't, but being honest, being saying, like, yeah, I desire to love at that level, Teshuvah said, in the Hebrew culture, family bonds are sacred. The loss of Joseph had already devastated Jacob, and Benjamin was the last son of Rachel. Yes, making him even more precious. Yes. We kind of touched on that last week about why Jacob was so reluctant to even let Benjamin go. It was a time period where he was like, nope, not happening. He did not reconsider letting go of that binding that was making him keep Benjamin so close until his food ran out. He had to reconsider, is this worth me dying, him dying, all of us dying? Because I can't trust the giving over of my last son of Rachel, my most precious. Like, we were literally called it, he had his Abraham Isaac moment, but that's what Yah's calling all of us to. Like, even, yes, it's his most precious son, but Yah saying still, let it go. Obviously a lot more gentler and full of love, but like, for the sake of this, Bible study conversation, Yah's like, let it go. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? And we could say that Jacob was operating as Jacob. He wasn't operating as Israel. He wasn't operating as a man who had wrestled with Elohim, and know that Elohim was going to be with him and like covering him. It was like that I'm a new creature. I got a new name, but I'm acting like Jacob right now. But he calls me Israel. And so it took a minute for him to walk in that name change. Even though he got the name change, we have to be constantly reminded of who Yah is, because we can slip back into forgetting that he's done X, Y, and Z to move like this before. Go ahead, Teshuvah.
So the only thing I want to add to this again is because as I'm start deep diving over here, because I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, there's so much more to it. I'm looking at this from the aspect of like this is a genuine love. You know how we bond with sisters, we get community, and we want to stay connected in some ways. And y'all may be like, no, let this go. Are we able? Because it's a little bit easier when you in something that's unhealthy, you don't like it, you don't really rock with it. But when it's really near and dear to your heart, can you put it down? And I'm just want I want to sit with that for a minute because I think that's really what the Father does. Because if something, as you said, takes precedence over him, I'll trust in him, I'll love with him, I'll walk with him. He's gonna ask us to put it down. Thankfully, nicely.
Ouch. I felt that one.
And it's like, cause like, yo, when that happens though, I've had this conversation where I'm like, but like this person love you. Like this person, I know they're seeking you out, but he just like, that's not the point. Will you just listen? And not even understanding why a separation between like certain friendships or even certain like fellowships happen. And like maybe nothing bad or traumatic happened. Maybe it was just like a y'all's doing a separation in the spirit, and you're just like, I don't understand why I need to put this down. And he's like, because it's hindering the growth that I have for you specifically and for them specifically, because like maybe y'all are just communicating a little too much about what I'm trying to reveal to you guys individually for your individual callings, anointings, purposes. You think you're gonna be like, oh, we're gonna do everything together, we're gonna do this. And y'all's just like, yeah, community, but like y'all are different parts of a body. Like, and I'm gonna have to separate this for a second. And that's kind of what I thought about when you brought that out, because it's like not all separation is because of something evil or nasty or wicked, but it could just be stunting your growth. Is it a cool place? Yeah, but y'all was like, I got more for you. And you cannot stay here because I'm elevating you. I'm maturing you. And this is hindering that. So in a sense, it's still a bad thing, but it doesn't look, on the outside looking, it doesn't look bad. But y'all's like, it's detrimental to the growth for you. Not that that person's not poisoning you or putting Roundup, in your fertile in your soil or anything, but it's just like if you were gardened and you have to like split seeds because they're growing too close together and their roots are being intertwined, it's like that. Y'all are choking each other out, but if you would just separate, I gotta put you over here in this part of the backyard. I'm gonna put you in this other side of the backyard because y'all both need ample space to dig your own individual roots deep down into me. But because y'all are so, your roots getting all and now you got to have your individual root depth process. And so that's what I tell people, it's not isolation, it's separation. Separation for elevation, all of those things, because, anybody who plants our gardens, or even if you look up a little video of gardening, when you plant, first, you plant seeds, they all germinate together, right? So you just threw the seeds out there. They're growing. It's great. The seed took good root. Okay, but now these plants are getting a little mature and their roots are getting tangled. So in the wisdom of the gardener, the master gardener, he's going to have to dig you up from where he first planted you and put you in a more fertile area. This just brings me back to Genesis 1, where he's like, let there be light, and separate the light from the darkness and the night from the day. And he put the sun here and he put the moon there. And he said, push the waters back and let the land be exposed. He didn't like have the water there and plant seeds yet. He's just like, nope, push the water here first. Now we have land. Now we have land that has trees or seeds. And now these trees have this fruit. But like the tree can't produce the fruit if first the water isn't pushed back in the land. It's like all these different steps for adding on top of what Yah wants to produce and reveal in you. But if we refuse the separation to make space for the trees and the fruit, then we're just being like, okay, we're just seeing that, okay, the land has been revealed. It's like, yeah, but the trees haven't been planted yet. The trees aren't producing fruit yet, because you're refusing the separation of something else that he wants to designate this particular fruit or growth for.
Good teaching.
Okay, where do we stop? Oh, Genesis 45. Chapter 45. Joseph makes, well, mine says Joseph makes himself known. You know, some Bibles, they have like little titles for each chapter. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's households heard about it. That's like some deep, gut-wrenching wailing, you know? Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Y'all know I'm gonna do the whole Yahusha Joseph connection, because that's been like the thing that got me so excited the whole time we've been doing the Joseph story. So the first thing obviously was that he revealed himself to his brothers when after he told all the Egyptians to get out. This is a family affair. Okay, nobody else is privy to what's about to go down right here. This is a private matter. And so I thought about how what was it? Where Yahusha reveals certain things just to his disciples, like, don't tell nobody. You know, he did that quite often. And I just thought it was so like, even within the disciples, there was like a section of disciples within the disciples that were privy to more revelation than the rest of them. And so that's why I'd be like, James, John, and Peter, them was the three goons. I don't call them goons. Them was the three closest to Yahusha. Like, they were the ones that saw stuff, and he was like, "Now don't tell nobody this." Like, and I'm just like, okay. What verses when that happened? Oh, so they were on the Mountain of Transfiguration. And you know, Yahuwah's voice is booming down from the cloud, like, "This is my son, and who I'm well pleased, listen to him." And when the disciples heard this, it was just James, John, and Peter. It wasn't all 12. They fell face down and were terrified. And Yahusha came up and touched them and said, "Get up, don't be afraid." And then Yahusha commanded them, "Do not tell anyone about the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead." And so that's Matthew 17:5. And so that's the first thing that popped in my head when I read Joseph chapter 45, where it was like, you know, he could no longer compose himself. He told everybody got out, and he only revealed who he was to his brothers. And it was, again, we talked about how Joseph been weeping this whole time. He was doing it covered. He was doing it in the closed room. And at this point, he's like, "I'm not going to conceal my weeping, my emotions, my sorrow, my joy any longer. I want you guys to see that I am moved in such a way that me weeping in front of you is me revealing how much I love you and trust you, and I'm vulnerable before you in this moment. Yes, I got all this power. Yes, I have all the authority of Pharaoh in this moment, but because you are my brother and I love you, I'm going to be vulnerable and just lay it out here." And they just couldn't answer him because they were scared. They were terrified in his presence. And I want to hit on like, he told them, like, you know, "Come near to me." And he just said, like, "I'm your brother. I'm your brother. I love you." It's like this, "I know you're scared. You don't want to come near me." He's like, "But I'm saying, come over here. It's okay." Just like Yahusha said, "Don't be afraid. Like, get up. Don't be afraid." You know? And I think it's this show of just love, but also on the opposite end, us being like the disciples, us being like, you know, the 12 sons of Israel, where our terror is a mixture of trepidation of fear because of our guilt, because of, dang, this is the one that I've hurt. This is the one I've sinned against. This is the one that I've spit in his face. This is the one where I was like, I don't really believe in him. Like, this is the one I've done all this to. I know I deserve death. Like, he's saying, you know, "Come here, I love you." But I'm just like, "Oh no, you got all the right to kill me." you got all the right to send me to hell. And it's mixed with like this trepidation and fear of they were terrified. It's just like, oh, you really him. It's like you recognize, so even with the disciples, they knew that Yahushua was the Messiah, but seeing him transfigure and stand up there with Moses and Elijah, it was like, oh no, he really him. It was more like oh, we don't need to, like, we are not worthy. Do I need to build you a booth? Like, that's who I think Peter said that. Do we need to build you a tabernacle for you, Moses and Elijah? Because this is too much glory that I don't think I should be in this presence. And also because, like, I'm a man of unclean lips. Like, I deserve death. And you're saying, come near to me. I love you. I'm your brother. Like, don't be afraid. Do you know the amount of just love, grace, long suffering, pay all the fruits of the spirit, and like Joseph, just like Yahushua's like, I know what they're gonna do to me. I know what, like for Joseph says, I know, like I'm literally the product of your sins. I'm literally the product of I'm literally standing here and I love you, even though I have been the recipient of your murder plot, your hatred, your bitterness. You sold me to, like, I am the one who received all of that sin on me. Like, you did this to me, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm your brother. I love you. I'm weeping. I'm in joy. I'm going through all these emotions, but come here. I love you. Come here. And they're just like, what? Because it's undeserved. And that's the whole, that's the beauty of Yah's love for us. And yeah. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, sis. So I wanted to just kind of eat off of that a little bit and then just, just keep them sunflower seeds, just chewing on that and spitting more out and taking in more, okay? And cherries, because that's what I do. But with all that being said, it makes me realize that we have absolutely nothing to complain about when we're going through, right? And we already talk about this stuff when we're talking about Yeshua, but you think about Joshua, right? And there have been the example, Joshua more importantly being the example, sometimes even in relationships where, I'll use an example for myself where I've gone through and been through it, just dealing with my mother, right? And at times it's been like, because Yah has healed me and has given me joy and poured into me, that I can just continue to give. And it's just like, whatever, like you can do me like that, whatever. But this shows the wisdom that Yah gives us as well, right? And that we are supposed to imitate and emulate. Can I say both of those, right? All right. Because Joseph, despite him wanting to hug and rescue and tell them immediately that, hey, this is me, he had to wait. He had to wait for a period, right? To bring restoration for their learning to come to maturity, right? Sometimes we always want to come in and rescue someone that ain't ready to be rescued yet, and then we continue to get hurt and broken, and we don't understand like why this continues to happen. And it's because we, in our own feelings, and like you were saying earlier, sometimes it's good, right? But Yah is saying, give this thing a season, give it some time, and let's just wait, right? Until there is a growing or a maturing, either on one part or both parts or the other part, etc., right? Until that thing happens, I need for you to sit away for a while to bring about my whole abundance in your life that I may be having for you and possibly for them, right? So, okay, y'all. You know how this goes. My goodness. You might just call it. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that this speaks so loudly in so many different ways, and we need to grab hold of what's really being said and what's being done in this situation, because it's an example for us to follow and apply to our lives. That Yah is telling us sometimes, like, look, just pause for a moment, baby. You know, I love you. I know you love them, right? But it's not always a time to act. And I'll be honest with you. I remember my coach Tanya shared something one time and said, you know, y'all told her to eat and wash her face, or wash her face and then eat. It was completely like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be fasting here. No, 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 no. This is what I'm telling you to do right here, right? Because I need for you to be in a space where you can continue to help. And maybe those that are in true need, for the ones you thinking are in need right now, that may not be ready for what I have to pour into them through you. So I just thought that was very powerful, Samaria. And I think Tashuv, is that how you pronounce her name, sis? She brought that thing out when she was saying like, it just may be a time for like, you know, it could be something great and something good, at least you think. And that, I mean, when I tell you that thing cut, because, you know, we think in the season of giving good, that it can't be wrong. But once again, it goes back to the righteousness and us being obedient and what Yah is telling us to do. Is it right? Is it righteousness, right? Righteousness, sometimes it hurts. And I mean, because he has an end goal. And in this case of Joseph and his brothers or whatnot, he waited that thing out until it was a time where they could actually receive it, because he could have done that really early and they still would have blew their mind, but were they ready for it? So.
And that's Teshuvia.
Okay, hopefully that made sense what I was trying to say. My baby was here. I'll be distracted a little bit. I can't always focus straight, but hopefully that made sense to y'all.
It definitely did, sis. It kind of tied into what we were talking about before we even started recording tonight, about how Joseph was used wisdom to try and to prove them. Like he was testing to see and observe, has there been a heart change? Has there been some reflecting on what they've done in the past? You know, before I do this full revelation about who I am to them, and the salvation and deliverance that I can give to them, you know? And so literally to practically apply that to our lives, to know that, you know, we live in a world where not everybody's on this narrow path healing journey. Not everybody's on the straight and narrow to be like, yeah, I try to raise in my heart. I want to produce good fruit, to when people take from my fruit, they're not damaged, they're not hurt, they're not injured. But not everybody feels the need to have to work on the reins of their heart. Not everyone feels the need to put their actions or reflect or examine their lives daily so that they are producing good fruit. And for us to know that, to know when, where, and how Yah may be moving us to say a thing or even invite someone back into a space or back into our life. But yeah, that was good. Oh, verse 5, thank you. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that Elohim sent me ahead of you. So one, you know, that's a lot right there, because immediately, because he's like, you're startled, you're afraid, you're terrified. You sent me to Egypt, but do not be angry with yourself, because y'all worked it out for not just my good, but literally for your good. And it's just like, in that moment, he knew that their first reaction was to condemn themselves even more for what they had done. After the accountability had happened, after he revealed himself, he's like, don't be afraid, and don't be distressed, and don't be angry. Don't grieve yourself. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about, I don't know if it was Sister Rachel that mentioned it, or a few of y'all, but we literally talked about this concept of not condemning yourself to the point where you refuse the changing of garments that Yah has for you. And this is kind of like that reminder. And he's going to say it to them again, but it's just like, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. A lot of times when these things happen, or we sin against somebody, or we sin against somebody else or ourselves, we have a tendency to be like, well, I should have did it like this. Like, after everything has happened, everything's all said and done, and you're where you are now, we have a tendency to like go back over our life and be like, well, if I would have knew what I knew then, I would have did that, and I could have did this, and y'all just like, that's pointless. Like, don't be angry with yourself. See it, grieve it, move on, forgive yourself. I forgave you. What Latanya say? What the enemy meant for evil, y'all worked it out for their good. Right. And it's just like, you meant this for evil, but it's not like, it's literally not just for my good, but to literally save your life. Like, there was such a bigger divine picture here. And he's like, Elohim sent me ahead to preserve your life, to keep you alive by a great deliverance. And so again, I put that Matthew 16 through 21. And then on Yahushua began to point out to his disciples that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed and be raised on the third day. Like, when I tell y'all, you can see the whole picture of Yah's salvation in Joseph's story, especially pertaining to Israel and the other nations, because like we said earlier, Egypt got saved and all the other nations who came to Egypt got saved because of Joseph being there. But it's just like, Joseph was such in a mature space to where, yes, he was weeping and he allowed himself to go through the grief, but in his grief, he didn't lose his wisdom. And I think that's something that's really important, because a lot of times we can grieve and we let go of wisdom and we let go of what Yah is doing in a situation, and we just sit in the grief and it becomes like a woe is me thing. But when you hold on to wisdom, you hold on to Yahuwah while you're going through your grief, you come to the revelation like Joseph, and you're just like, yes, this happened to me, but I made it to Yah's house. If that had not happened to me, would I have been in the position to receive a word or to grow in my calling or to really decide to seek Yah for myself if this thing didn't happen in my life? But that's wisdom. That is knowing that Yah is good and he's good all the time, even in the midst of my trauma, my pain, and my hurt. What the enemy meant for evil, Yah's like, but look, you're here with me now. You can see me clearer now. Thoughts, comments, insights?
I think this is so like such good stuff, such good stuff. I was thinking about how this, for me, when we're reading this, I hear about the wooing. It's that wooing that the Most High has to us, like that he can diagnose, or he can tell us, like you said, I know you're afraid, I know that you're scared, but come here, but come here. And that, to understand what it means for him to say that. And that this goes back, I think, to the what we were talking about, I think last week before last week, about the character of the Most High. That when we say he is good, what does that mean? When we say we believe that he is righteous, he is holy, what does that mean? It means that when we step into these difficult spaces, I am not one of these people that's just like, everything feel good and everything's no, some stuff sucks. Some stuff is painful. Some stuff is horrible and atrocious and it's tragic. It's all of the bad stuff that it could be. It actually is. But it's also the fact that your perspective about it is also is the reality of the thing, right? That, as they say, something can be true but not truth. So it can be true that it hurts, but the truth is that the Most High is a comforter. It can be true that I can have financial lack, but the truth is that he is my sustainer and provider. I'm not trying to negate or to do something that happens sometimes in faith walks, where you are pushing aside the state that you may be in. But when you do that, it doesn't allow you to then put the truth on top of it. If you deny the thing without looking at it for what it is, which is what Joseph did, he said, you did this and you did this, but it's okay because this, right? And it does take, like you said, like Lady T was just saying it in the chat, it does take a certain amount of time and experience with the Most High in your own individual walk where you learn to trust Him and you learn to know that, yeah, that's hard. That was difficult. That was a difficult space for me. That was a painful space for me. That was all of those things. But I know that if my father allowed it, if my father said that this is the path that I must walk, it's all right because he's there, right? It's all right because no matter what I walk through, no matter what I experience, no matter how dark it gets, the reward that I have is not even the outcome. The reward that I have is him, that I can say as I'm on the journey of something being difficult, Father, that this hurts, and that he can act in the role, and then he can fulfill the function of comforter. That I can go to him and say, Father, I want or I need, and then he provides, that he act in that space of being the shepherd that provides for the sheep. All of these things are all of these things become ways in which we are able to see all of the various, I don't have another word for it, so I'm gonna use this one, all the various colors and hues and shadows of him. Like, because if not, we would only know him in one dimension, in one space, in one, and we would only be able to see him in that way. And I think that in this passage, as even as we're reading, the difficulty that the brothers have is also the difficulty we have to see this person who is before us in Egypt looking like an Egyptian, right? And not being able to recognize, oh, but wait, he's but that's Joseph. And to be able to reconcile that this is all the same person. And I think that we as people who are seeking the Most High and who are wanting to walk in his way, we sometimes get caught in black and white. We get stuck, but he's not black and white. There are shades and variations and like all kinds of different, like it's not just one blue. It's blue and royal and periwinkle and like it's all of these things, and that it we have to create a space that we are able to let him show himself that way to us and still trust us, and still trust him rather, that although I may know him as royal blue, when he shows up as light blue, I'll be like, oh, wait, no, that's him. And not to be pulling back from that. Y'all got to forgive me because all of my creative stuff is going right now. And I'm just like, it's very colorful. It's very colorful and I can't explain it. I'm so very sorry. But that's what I'm trying to say, that it is this wooing, it's this showing of the Most High, because even people that we think, oh, well, we know the law and we know what to do and we know about Sabbath and we know this and we know that and we did all of the things, right? No, you don't know him, but you don't know him. You continue to know him, and he continues to show himself in that wider, deeper depth that you may not have experienced had you not gone through. I would not have known, like even for myself, I would not have known. I thought I knew what it meant to call the Most High Comforter. I thought I had an intellectual knowledge of it. But having been in this space now, with the loss in my life, and for him to step into that spot, and when he says, this is what I mean by, I didn't know nothing before. I wasn't even awed at the concept of a comforter, but now it's something that brings me to my knees. It's a new color. It's a richness and a depth and a vibrancy that I had no idea existed, but it is Whew. It is really beautiful to behold.
Hallelujah. It's you said the vibrancy of the colors. I just thought about, Joseph's many colors, was this a showing of the vastness and the different layers and shades that Joseph would be operating in. The different layers and shades that our Heavenly Father would manifest himself in, and all the categories and all the different layers of the onion of who he is. Like, if you just look at an onion and be like, oh my gosh, it makes my eyes burn, it hurts, it cries, but like, keep pulling back the layers. Oh, this layer is sweet. Okay, this layer is like, a little flakier here, there. But like Miss Rachel was saying, it is the intimacy of that. And the whole, like, I just keep, I'm very visual. So when I'm seeing this whole transaction happen, not transaction, this whole situation unfold with Joseph's revealing himself to his brothers. It is in Joseph's chambers. It's in Joseph's, first in his house, and all the other people are gone. And it's just this very intimate space to hold and sit in all of the emotions. And while the brothers, like ourselves, like we be sitting there, we said yes, we went into the Holy of Holies to allow y'all to wash us and cleanse us and allow us to confess these things. But as we're sitting there and we're like, this is our guilt, y'all's telling us, yeah, you did this, you sold me, you ripped my clothes, you pierced me in my side, like, and we're sitting there and we're fearful. But here is this multifaceted spectrum of love, joy, peace, loving kindness, and has a capacity to be an Elohim of war and vengeance and recompense. And he's sitting there like, I'm your intimate, close Elohim. Like, come on, give me a hug. Like, it's just awe. And so like when Miss Rachel was putting words into her revelation of like the difference between saying, like, oh yeah, Joseph, that's our brother. But like, he's Joseph, our brother, but he's also second in the leadership in all of Egypt. It's like this, we see the whole spectrum of this person, and it is a lot to take in, that I'm having a hard time believing it, but I'm experiencing it. So I know it's true, and I've experienced its trueness by being in the presence of it. But that only happens when we get in the presence of it to access the comforter, the healer, the restorer, the mother, the father, your brother, your sister, your first love. Like, it's only when the honesty, the vulnerability, and the willingness of us sinners goes into the presence of our high priest and king, to be able to see that he's not one-dimensional, that he is beyond our comprehension of, oh, he's a comforter, oh, he's a provider, he's Jireh, he's Rapha, he's El Shaddai. Like, we know all these terms, right? But have you experienced them is a whole nother conversation. Yeah. And so we're going to touch on something that Sister Rachel said about how, he shows up as you're walking. And so I think, what verse are we on? Okay, verse 6. For 2 years now, there was famine in the land, and for 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But Elohim sent me ahead of you to preserve you for a remnant on earth, and to save your life by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but Elohim. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. Elohim has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me. You, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and all you have, I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. Okay. So Joseph I'm your brother, cool, but I'm also gonna tell you straight up, like, we're not gonna sugarcoat anything. Like, I got you. If you come down here, I'm gonna provide for you. I got you, your kids, your grandkids. Don't delay. You know, like last time, he didn't put them on a time limit when he sent them back to their dad's house and said, bring back Benjamin. There was no time limit there. We talked about that. He was like, you know, this is like the first round of tests. Cool. You know, they ate all the grain. They didn't really come back in kind of like a hurry to like prove to me that they weren't lying, that they had a younger brother. But this time, I'm like, I revealed who I am. You trusted me this far as Pharaoh. Now trust me as Joseph, your brother, to say, y'all need to come down here. Dad, don't delay. Don't drag your feet. Come down here. I got you. Everything's going to be provided for. And I think, so I didn't read it yet, but like in my notes, I have it like all mushed together where it talks about, he's like, I'm going to give you the best land of Egypt. You could enjoy the fat of the land. And then he also gives them provision to and for the journey. And he gives them new clothes for his brothers. He gives them a change of garment. And then he tells them again, do not quarrel, don't fight on the way. And I just thought it was really interesting because it's like, if you want the provision, you still have to make the journey. If you want the provision, you still have to move in the faith to go when he says go and don't delay. He's like, I have the provision. I have the best for you. I have this whole city that's designated just for you. Like Goshen is going to be a place of covering, abundance, more than enough. You have the best of not just any land, the best of Egypt. You're not Egyptians, but I'm giving you the best of Egypt. And I'm going to send you back to go get my father. Not with what just you had and said, figure it out on your way. No, I'm going to give you provisions. And Pharaoh even put his stamp of approval. I'm going to send you with carts and chariots. So it'll make the journey easier, but you don't delay. Just go. Just do it. And as you're going, don't argue. Because I know I just told you I forgave you. It wasn't you that did this. Elohim did. I told you. It was for Yah did it to save you. So there's no point of you trying to argue about, see, I knew this was because it's going to happen because what we did to Joseph, he already knew. Yah, the Ruach HaKodesh knows we have a tendency to try to pick back up the things that was forgiven of us in the midst of the courts. And he's like, I'm telling you again, take these new clothes. Like, look, he gave them the new clothes first. He gave them the change of garments first. And then he had to, hey, I'm going to remind you, don't be out here arguing. Which lets me know that Yah knows that we have a tendency to get our new clothes, our new change of heart, our willingness to listen, to obey him. And we still have a tendency to forget. And he has to remind us, hey, I gave you new clothes. Hey, you a new person. Stop arguing about what happened then. It's a constant thing that he has to remind us because we got a tendency to constantly forget. But in his grace and his mercy, he won't just tell us once or twice. He will constantly remind us, why are you arguing over what happened 5 years ago? Why are you bringing up what you did 2 months ago? Like, you brought it to me, you confessed, you repented, and you allowed me to get the reins of your heart to wash the thing out of you. Stop allowing the enemy to try to bring it back in your face. I was like, faith is still needed as we walk towards Yah's tabernacle, as we walk towards Goshen, as we walk towards his covered place, the covenant. We are saying yes to Abba. He provides the provision, the wisdom, the resources to complete the journey into his kingdom. He gives the new clothes and the change of garments. However, even after all of this, the beautiful revelation of who he is and how he has forgiven us, we must be reminded to not fight. We must be reminded that we are forgiven because because it's pointless. The fighting is pointless. And it's a trap for the enemy to fall into arguing about past sins or how we could have avoided X, Y, and Z. The word don't quarrel or don't argue on the way is a reflecting point for us on this narrow path. As our minds are being renewed, the adversary tries to keep you in condemnation and doubt all and to doubt all the forgiveness and healing that happened moments before. Like they are still in the presence of Joseph and he's saying, don't fight. Then they move around a little bit and now they're in the presence of Joseph and Pharaoh and he's saying, tell your brothers, do this, load your animals and return to the land of Canaan and bring your father and bring your families back to me. I will give you the best land of Egypt. All this stuff is being pronounced. All these blessings of promise are being poured on his brothers, are being poured on Judah and all the rest of the brothers. He was like, get your carts and your wives and your children and never mind your belongings because the best of all of Egypt will be yours. Literally pronouncing blessing on top of blessing on top of blessing to them. And he's reminding them in this midst, I'm going to give you provisions for the journey, but don't quarrel on the way. You be like, of course I wouldn't be arguing. Like, look at all this stuff. Like, who got time to argue when I'm looking at all these carts and all these chariots and all these horses that's going to come help pack us up and bring us to a land where we won't even have to be reminded of the famine. Because the adversary just wants to keep you in condemnation and doubt because he wants to interfere he wants to make you think that you're not really forgiven and wants to taint the healing, the restoration that happened moments before. And it's like, why is this? It's because the road might feel long. As they're walking back to their dad, they're still contemplating. They're still reminiscing. They're still probably chewing over the woe, the wow, the awe of everything they just experienced. Like it's moving real fast, right? So now they got this long walk to get back to their father. And just like us, as we are walking and learning and being renewed every day, and as we are ordering and allowing y'all to order our steps, he says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So there's some walking that's going to have to do. And it's like the road may feel long, and we have a tendency to forget Yah's goodness towards us while we're walking literally into a place of promise and restoration and peace. And it sounds crazy when I say it out loud, but it's just like, we have a tendency to forget Yah's goodness towards us while we're literally walking into a place of promise, his restoration and peace. And because this is literally what exactly happens in the Exodus, and it's so crazy that it's literally what's happening on the way to Egypt. But in a smaller sense because it's just the 12 sons. But when they exit, it's going to be the 12 tribes. It's going to be all like the whole multitude of them. But it's like, just like they exited out of Egypt, Yah had the Egyptians give them all this stuff, just poured over all their possessions and all their riches and all, they lacked for nothing. And while they're on the way to the promised land, they forget Yah's goodness and they argue amongst each other. They doubt his provisions. They're questioning, oh, we don't want this light bread. Oh, we're like, they got all the provisions, but yet they quickly forgot Yah's goodness. And so because Yahuwah knows our tendencies, even in this story, we can see that Joseph, being the representation of Yahusha, saying, as you walk towards Goshen, or as you walk towards, as you are walking on this narrow path, do not forget, don't fight. Because I know the tendency to forget all the good, all the forgiveness, all the healing, all the restoration that I'm literally pouring on you. So he's like, go, you gotta go in peace. Like that's like this whole setup was Joseph telling his brothers, you don't need to argue nothing. Like literally, I have nothing but love and peace for you. So you go in peace. Don't pick up hostility after I said go in peace.
Oh, Samari, that is like so good. Okay, I'm trying to make it real short. I'm working on it. Somebody put a timer on. Here we go. So, earlier we were talking about the reins and we were talking about the kidneys and their function and how that's related to the spiritual. Earlier today, I'm gonna throw some science behind what you're just talking about. So, I was listening to this little short audio clip earlier, and it was talking about how the body is made to put itself into homeostasis. Like our bodies are always trying to bring itself back to basically baseline normal, right? It's trying to keep us out of fight, flight, or freeze, right? It's trying to get us to a place where we are, stable. And one of the things that they were talking about in this particular clip that I was listening to, I wish I had that doctor's name. I don't have his name. He was talking about how your mind does not know the difference between a memory and your reality. So if in your memory you keep going back to a place, a trauma, a thing, your mind doesn't know that you're physically not there. It does not know that you are not physically re-encountering this thing because the mind is like, oh, this is where we are. The reason why I bring this up is because when you were talking about the passage where he told them don't quarrel, right? What I heard was this thing. I used to have this. I used to work out with this coach, and one of his favorite sayings was, "Get your mind right." He said, "If you get your mind right," he said, "it won't matter about how many reps I give you. Get your mind right." And that's what I heard in my head when you read that scripture. It says, "Now don't quarrel," because just like this audio clip that I was listening to earlier today, that was saying that your mind is such a wonderful creation of the Most High. Its capacity and its ability to transcend even time of itself means that you have to keep yourself in a present and future state. That's what they were talking about. They were talking about how you have to keep your mind present, like literally in the moment that you're in right now, but you also have to have a future. So as you were talking about the children of the brothers and how they had been given all of this provision and how they had been given ways to be able to get back to their father and even more than what they had come out with, the statement of don't quarrel to me says get your mind focused here and get your mind focused in to see your father and coming back to me. And that's kind of because that is the trick of the adversary. The adversary is the accuser of the brethren, and all he has is the past stuff. He can't pull anything from the future. He's pulling past stuff. And scientifically, if we stay stuck in, oh, I'm this, oh, I said that, or oh, I did this 4 years ago, if we stay there, our mind does not know that we're not there anymore. Our mind is going to go wherever we send our little thoughts. And so I know there's some scriptures. I know y'all know them scriptures because y'all are smart people. Y'all know the scriptures about the mind and what is, capturing your thoughts and all of those things. And I'm just thinking about how that instruction, don't quarrel, was not just about strife, right? Although it was about that, right? Because he knew who he was dealing with. He knew his brothers. He knew his brothers. It was also about you can't get stuck in this stuff that happened in the past, because that's not where we are. Where we're going is we're heading to Goshen. What we're doing is we're heading to provision. What we're doing is we're talking about sustaining, the legacy. What we're doing is talking about, making provision for generations to be able to survive. But if you don't put your mind there, you're not gonna get there. And that was another thing and last point, that's another thing that this doctor was talking about. He was saying that that's how repetitious we get caught in repetitious trauma is because we're rehearsing it and we keep rehearsing it. And so when another trauma shows up in our life, it's almost like we're calling it to us because we keep living it over and over again. And the only cycle to break that is to put your mind in something else. So, oh, thank you, Father. That is one of them scriptures says, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is true, whatsoever, like that. Like you got to put your mind there, because if not, we fall prey to not just forgetting, but getting stuck in the past over something that the Most High has said, no, I didn't redeem that. No, I didn't forgave that. No, I'm done with that. I'm through with that. Why are you over there? That's all. Just one. That's okay. I'm good.
You don't ever have to put yourself on a time limit, Miss Rachel.
That's good, Rachel.
Yes,
That's good,
that's
sis.
so good, sis. And like that's kind of where I just ended the notes, because that's a reality for us. Like we said yes to Abba. We said yes to the narrow path. And he has to remind us, the reminder for tonight, for this week, is because you said yes, he's gonna provide. He's gonna make sure you get there. But don't look back. Again, talking about, that's why Yahusha said, remember Lot's wife? Not remember her to be like her. Remember her so you don't, so you'll stop looking back. That is over with. It's destroyed, it's dead, it's gone. It's ashes. It's ashes. Your future is this way. If you look back, and I truly believe that the reason why Yahusha was just like, remember Lot's wife, because he's like, if you don't get this in your ruach to understand, when I'm saying don't look back, when I'm saying don't pick up the past, when I'm saying don't quarrel about what happened before, if you refuse to listen to that wisdom and you pick it up and you quarrel and you fight about what happened before, it will be your destruction. Because it reverts your eyes off of what he's calling you to, and it takes your eyes on back where you used to be, and you have a tendency to stay there and look back too long, and you die over there. You're walking towards the promised land. You're walking towards Goshen. You're walking towards the tabernacle. You're going towards life. Everything else behind you is death. You said, remember Lot's wife, so you would know not to look back at death. Don't desire to look back there. Don't play with those, like Miss Rachel just brought the scientific. Stop reliving that. Stop living over there. I called you out of Sodom and Gomorrah. I called you out of Babylon. Why are you still reminiscing? I know it's not reminiscing when it's trauma, but like, why are you still living in that? Because if you keep living in that and not living in what I'm calling you into, and it's having a double mind or a divided mind. And I know there's some healing in different aspects of the looking back, because if you're dealing with trauma, that's again putting your guard down and letting Yah come in so he can sit with you and work you into that. But there's some other things that we look back at, are maybe we missed certain parts of our life when we were in sin, and Yah's like, well, you can just stay over there then. Clearly you don't think what I have for you is better and more fulfilling than the life and the things that you enjoyed in your sin. There's something going on if that's where you want to stay. And so I think I'll put that in the notes too, as that reminder. He says, don't quarrel, go in peace. It's also exactly reminiscent to remember Lot's wife, to not be like her. Don't go picking up your past. Don't go conversating and arguing about how you could do some things differently. So that's all I got for tonight, y'all. Thoughts, comments, commentary.
All right, so I was trying to type a bunch of stuff in there, but I was also trying to feed my face. First of all, this is amazing. This is my real first time. So when you was like, y'all got praise report, my praise report was I made it. Oof, I'm about to cry. Hold on a second. I'm such an emotional thug. Father, help me out. All right, so real quick. First I was excited. My praise report. Oh, I made it. I finally get to see you. But now I'm so thankful for one. Thank you for what you're doing. Thankful for everyone that is here, that is adding. It takes a lot to do the work that is being done to be restored unto Yah. And that is a work that each and every one of us have to do individually and collectively. So as we continue to walk through this, like I got so many notes over here, I can't even keep up with how my brain was going with this and connecting that. And then you guys, of course, when y'all started talking about the healing, of course, my heart is like, yes, because we tussle with ourselves. And when Sister Rachel was like, I forgot how she worded it, but like, I forgot how she worded it, but my mind always go to when we talk about return to ourselves or return to the Father. We are one. If we're connected with the Father, when we talk about the Father, we're talking about ourselves. When we talk about ourselves, we should be talking about the Father. If we're not, there's a disconnect and there's a healing that needs to be done. However, I am thankful that I made it because there's so much meat and food here. And I pray that everyone continue to be patient with your journey with the Father, because when He calls you to a thing, He's already prepared the way for you. You guys started talking about destruction, which my mind really started going because we don't realize distractions lead to destruction. Whenever we get off course, we're leading to destruction, and the enemy is slick. He knows our hearts, he knows our fears, he knows our thoughts to a certain extent. And the only reason he knows the thoughts is because we speak them out our mouth. We start telling people our fears, our anxieties, our depressions, our traumas, and then we get people monitoring spirits and all this stuff. But I'm gonna try not to go on along to truth talk. So what I want to say is be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace to hear, thus says Yah. He sent his son for your restoration. The work you're able to do. He says the enemy is knocking at the door and his desire is for you, but you must overtake him, which means you can. Why? Because if I submit myself unto Yah, what can the enemy do to me? If I submit to thus says Yah and I'm obedient and I pray, I fast, I do what he says, that means he's got me covered front, back, side, left, right. There's nothing that can come before me that I cannot overcome. And as we're walking through this, because I haven't read Genesis in a long time, you see Yah's love and mercy for Joseph to be able to, because I ain't there. Like Tashibia likes to tussle. I promise you, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. To love people who have hurt you, who have mishandled you, who have done you wrong is a hard task to do, but it's not impossible. To go through grief of loss is a hard task to do, but it's not impossible. To build community in healthy and safe spaces is a hard task to do, but it's not impossible. These things become impossible when we don't submit to Yah. And I don't mean to be fussing at y'all, because I don't even know y'all like that. But when you don't submit to Yah, life is hard. When you submit to Yah, the peace, the joy, the strength, it is increased daily. When you come into these spaces with like-minded women that love Yah, you're even more covered, because now you got someone standing in the gap, praying for you, encouraging you, uplifting you, iron sharpen iron. So I just pray that you guys stay encouraged, and I'm happy I made it, and I pray that Yah continue to provide a way for me to get my butt up out of the bed. To be here, because this fed my soul in ways that I didn't know I needed. You know, he cut me up a little bit, but then he also provided the solution and the healing, because that's what a loving father does. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my tissue talk. This was great.
Hallelujah, sis. We're glad you was able to make it too. Like, man, yeah, he literally, I remember one of my prayers a couple years ago, I was just like, I told her to probably say this often, like, I was like, where's my family? You said you put the lonely in families up, but where's my family? Literal crying, boohooing on the floor, okay? And then little did I know, y'all was like, just wait. Just give it time. Like, be patient. Like, he was stretching my patience to trust him, right? Little did I know, like, he would put it on me and Coach T's heart to start community. And like, boom, now I have more than just my mom and my brother and my coaches here or there. Like, I have sisters all over, right? But not just anybody and everybody. Like, he drew specific women to this Bible study who were saying yes to do the work, and to know that, hey, if I got to talk a little harsh to you and you got to talk harsh to me, in the sense of like, hey, well, Yah's word says, and you said that you wanted to, have a heart more like Yah, sis, and that didn't really feel like Yah in that moment, because like Yah's like, I need you to understand what my love looked like before you could go in community and express the kind of love I showed you to other people, because the people that I'm bringing to you, they've experienced my love like this. So when you speak like that, it won't offend. And if it does offend, they submit to me more, to the point where they'll just be like, okay, sis, Torah says if I'm offended, then I'm gonna come to you about it, and not, sweep it under the rug. And so we handle things because of our submission to Yah. I remember talking to Latanya earlier today. We were talking about like the book of Judges, and I was like, where is the fear of Yahuwah? And I was just like, I can't imagine me now operating the way that some of my ancestors did, because of my fear of Yah. And some of the things that we're doing just so audacious to each other, I was just like, I gotta fear, because I know that's Yah's daughter. I have a fear because I know, like, Yah sees her as first choice. He also sees me as first choice. And so I'm going to handle or move in a way because I love my father. And not just because I know that he loves them, but he loves me. And I know he's still working on me and he's still working on them. And I know that we're not all perfect, but we're working towards perfection. So I have a lot more grace extended to have the conversations that may hurt, to have the conversations that are uncomfortable, to have the conversation to be like, hey, sis, you really pissed me off the other day. I prayed about it and y'all said, instead of harboring it, I need to talk to you about like what happened that offended me. You know, and it's not like I'm attacking you or anything, but like I just can't harbor this in my heart anymore because it's doing something to my fruit. So I need to confess this thing. But it's like y'all was like, that kind of community people haven't had before. And so don't rush trying to find your family, you know, don't rush trying to find your family because there's some things in you that you weren't ready to have that type of family 2 years ago, you know, but you're ready for it now, kind of a thing. And so I'm just grateful for this space. I'm grateful for these conversations because even though, you know, Yah is with me and he's giving me these notes, like I told Latanya, that like a lot of these notes happen day before. And if I don't go back and listen to the Bible study, I end up missing what Yah was pouring through me to speak because it was for me too. It feels like sometimes when I give a prophetic word, I'm like, I don't even know what I said. Like, hold on. Okay, yeah, bring it back to my remembrance. Like, oh, dang, yeah. Okay, it's like that even with Bible study. A lot of the things that Yah, that's why when we pray, every time we open up, I always make it a point to say, Yah, you go before us and you reveal what you want us to pull out to apply to our lives tonight. What is the imperative message of this season? Which is, I really think, you know, we got to the end of it tonight. It's just like, don't look back. What she say? Distractions lead to destruction. Remember Lot's wife. Don't be like her. And it's just like, I just know like the season that we're in. Community is so important. But like we say, community, but also fostering your own healing, your own restoration with Yah is also important. And I just appreciate y'all. You know, I love y'all and I'm just excited for what Yah's doing in each and every one of y'all's hearts and lives and the healing that he's, you know, doing in y'all. Even the unspoken things that I know that each of y'all are, you know, doing in your own prayer closets. Like we pray, you know, you're in my heart when we pray. We're in my heart when I pray, you know, not just on Fridays, but just like, yeah, I just cover my sisters because they doing work and the enemy don't like that. So just, you know, he's with y'all and I love you guys. I want to read some of the things in the chat before we get off. Aisha said, "You not fussing, sis. You just preaching the word. Love it. Bring it out." Yes, Sister Ray said, "Yeah, it's all love." Exactly. Paris said, "Yes, and moving like Yah and being able to really truly forgive. I really do feel like that comes with forgetting. Yes, humanly we may remember, but in our spirit." He truly abides in us, we are able to forget and truly wipe the slate clean. Yes, that again may not always mean you are returned to the same situation in the same way, or put someone in the same box, but it's peaceful. Yeah, sis. We talked about that a little bit, like in the beginning about, you know, maybe somebody hurt you just like Joseph's brothers hurt him. He didn't immediately reveal himself to them. It was like let me test you, let me try you, let me observe if there's been a change. Like I can forgive you and still use wisdom to not allow, I guess, whatever sin or uncleanliness that person may be operating in to come in and try to affect your space or to reinfect the space that Yah is healing. You know, it's like heart surgery. You just can't, like maybe, you know, before you had heart surgery, you know, you was hugging on your kids, but you know, your kids went outside and they played in a dirty puddle somewhere, but you're in a recovery room right now. You wouldn't allow your kids to come in here with mud all over their clothes and dirt all over their hands and touch the area that was just cut and sewn up because it invites infection, you know? And so it's kind of like that same thing. It's like, yeah, I love you, but let me just are you taking the proper precautions to wash yourself in the word? Are you taking the proper precautions to disinfect the thing that was rotten in you? If I can see that and I've observed it, okay, you can come on in here now. Kind of like when you have a newborn baby, I don't just letting everybody hold your baby. Like, wash your hands, change your shirt. Like, it's the whole thing, you know. I mean, I work with a lot of families who have newborn babies, and they're just like, yeah, especially first time parents. You're not about to hold my fresh baby. You just came from it outside. You didn't wash your hands. I see your shirt is clearly dirty. Even if I can't see the dirt, I know there's particles from outside on your clothes. So please, I have some clothes for you. Change that so you can hold my baby. You know, it's similar to that. And I just like to give like practical examples of stuff like that. T said, sis, I wish I could hug you. I wish I could hug you too, sis. And love on you. And I like for this group, the result of Samara. It's like, I want y'all to know that this group is a result of Samara's obedience. Thank you, sis, for always standing on business and not just any business, but our Father's business. Aw, my big little sis. You harbor so much for us and pour out so much. You hurt so much for y'all's people, and I just want to give you your flowers and thank y'all for raising me up. Oh, thank you, sis. Don't make me cry. Yeah, I love you guys so much. I love you too, Natalie. Oh, I love you guys. And these studies are literally right on time every single week. The timing of me coming into this with y'all was all him. I said it before. I say on camera because I'm crying and punching the air the whole time in the best ways. LOL, so good. Love you. I love y'all so much. This is something that, like, even reading these comments is like, y'all is healing something in me, because yes, I remain humble, but like, even receiving comments makes me cringe. Like, I'd be like, oh gosh, I love y'all so much too, but like, stop. And I'm asking like, y'all, what is that? What is that? What is, why is that? You know, and he's just been, a lot of people have like loved on me this week, and I'm just like, yeah. And I think even in this lesson of like healing from, like, you are worthy. Like, stop picking up this, saying the dirty garments and you don't want to receive this thing. So I'm just like, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I'm nobody. He'd be like, stop. You're my child. You're my daughter. But like, I catch myself anytime, like, I'm talking to a sister, they're just like, oh my gosh, thank you for, sending me that word, or, thank you for the studies. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, all praise glory to Abba. And then they'll just like go in more. I don't know any other word to say but gush. And I'll just be like, yeah, where is it? I'm literally just Samari. And it literally, like, yeah, is healing something in me. And I still don't know what the root of it is, but I'm just like, I'm just being obedient. I just want to do your word. I'm grateful that your words are affecting people, because all I'm doing is just reading your word, I'm just venting right now, because I'm just like, yeah, like, why is it hard for me to receive, I don't know, receive love, or receive that acknowledgement. I'm just talking in circles, but yeah, I'm just like pondering in the moment. So that's something y'all's gonna deal with me with like later, but I'm doing it before community. So yeah. It's like, we thank you, Samar, for the Most High that He has prepared you for this space, and just like seeds and soil and nurturing allows us to grow in all of us. We are not the harvest. Well, guys.
Well, wait, not done. One more.
Okay.
Wait for it. All right, so I would have to say, try to formulate the words. Okay. What I admire and what I appreciate about all of you ladies on here and sisters on here, is that the accountability. So I know sis, she made a comment in regards to kind of like briefing herself, as she speaks. And what I just want to say to everyone is that let's all, as we have to put that, it's like an extra barrier over our skin in regards to kind of like a tough skin, you know, they'd be like, oh, toughen up, you know what I'm saying? Because the what love truly is honesty and truth. That to me is the highest, one of the highest forms of love. And so knowing that I can call on you, Samaria and T, and I'm saying, okay, and I had to do 2 heart checks this week, okay? I was like, wait a minute, I gotta call, you know, and that I trust you with my heart to do that check because I know that you are gonna check it right. Okay. And so I don't even know you. Do you hear me? I don't know. All I know is this right here. What we do here. This is what I know. But so this is what I say this to say to you that you know what the father the position that he's putting us in right now in this season, it's requiring us to speak his word to people whether or not they are capable of accepting it. It's not a we're doing it out of love. So don't ever feel as if that you're coming too harsh or that you're speaking too much. And this goes for everyone. Don't ever feel because if you're operating in the fruit of the spirit and you're operating in love and with patience and in kindness, and it's just what you're saying to that person, that whatever the father has put on you to speak to someone, at that point, once you speak it to them, it's up to them to determine how they're going to, feel about it. But I think as for us, because we already know this, that we need to just understand that this level of accountability is like one of the most purest forms of love. And I just appreciate it. And Miss Rachel, listen, you hold me accountable. You don't even know you hold me accountable. Okay. You say some stuff, I'll be like, dang, girl, were you with me last night? Like, what was going on? So it's like it's some real, but it's just we need this. We have to stop with this sugar coated kind of love, that this fairy tale, fairy dust type of, that ain't love. I'm sorry, ladies, this is not love. Love hurt, and love hurts in a good way, not in a bad way. And so sometimes it's just going to require that pain, to purify us. And it's just, like when you're creating a diamond, that's sucker getting chiseled and cut, you know? It's the same with us. So I just want to thank you for chiseling, you know, the pieces off of us, and allowing the Father to use you to do this. And I want to thank T as well, because she constantly chiseling me. So I just appreciate both of you. Um, and that's it. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, sis. Oh, before we get off, so earlier in Bible study, Aisha, before you got on, I kind of meant we were talking about the reins of the heart, and how then we started talking about like the function of the kidneys. Then we started talking about how physically and spiritually, like things can manifest if we're harboring things. And I kind of alluded to how you showed me that picture of something after Yah gave you a revelation and a breakthrough of something, that you actually had something removed and it looked like 2 angry men. And I didn't have the full story, but I was like, Aisha was sharing with me how like when they showed it to her, she could recognize like I was harboring this, and then Yah showed me like this thing that had a face of an angry man was taken out of me. And we were just talking about how like sometimes cancers and other things can develop in the body for harboring like bitterness or wickedness. And even though you live a very healthy life, I think Dominique talked about there was a person who never drank, never did anything crazy or ate really good, but they still had, I don't know if it was a kidney disease, or they still had like cancer, and they just couldn't understand like how that could happen. And we're saying like some things manifest in the physical because of a spiritual toxin that's like in